Welcome back, guys. This is my spoiler review for episodes 7 and 8 of Outer Range. And so with these final two episodes, the first season of Outer Range concludes. And overall, I really enjoyed this show. I just love the premise. I love the idea of a bunch of cowboys, like a town of cowboys. Everyone's got their cowboy hats and they're like, yes ma'am, they're riding bulls and they're being all cowboy and stuff. But then also, there's a big hole. It's a big cosmic void. It's, ooh, what's going on? Sci-fi void, hole thing. What's in the hole? Time travel. Time travel is probably in the hole. And I love this premise. It's so much fun. I've had so much fun speculating, thinking, going, what's going on with this hole? What's going on with all these characters? And these last two episodes were really good. We got a couple of answers, like we confirmed it is in fact time travel. It's my parallel universe, parallel dimensions, multiverse kind of theory. That's out the window. Definitely not that. It's definitely time travel. That was a big confirmation. We got the big fan theory. Is Amy Autumn? Yes! She's got the scar. It's just been conveniently being hid by some hair conveniently. But now it's all out in the open. We see the scar. We have all these big reveals. But I do have to say, even though I enjoyed these episodes, particularly the 8th episode, like the finale, I think I was kind of hoping for maybe a little bit more, like a kind of a tease to what's ahead. We got that flash at the end of episode 2 of the future, and so much, it was just so crazy, so much was going on, and at the time I'm like, I can't believe they showed us so much so early. What else are we going to see? And it turns out nothing else from the future. For the whole season, not even like a little tease at the end. Like, I don't want it like a post-credits, like, this isn't no Marvel thing. The way they ended this season was so depressing and sad and just like melancholy, and there was like that bittersweetness where it was like, oh, all our family's gone. He's like, well, actually, no, I found out that Autumn is actually Amy. He doesn't say that, but he's like, actually, she's not gone. And there's that bittersweet kind of thing to it. But I felt like the way they ended the season was just so depressing. So just like, oh, this is like they've lost the farm, like they've lost all their kids, and yeah, Amy's back, but not the little girl Amy. They've lost all those years with her, presumably. So I don't know, I just felt like it was like, oh, this is a really sour note to end the season on. Why couldn't you have kind of added a little sting where Perry lands and he's like, oh my god, I landed in a time travel hole, and something happens that's kind of exciting and kind of reinvigorates us to go, oh, I can't wait for season 2, because this ended and I went, my god, that is depressing as hell. Like, why the hell did you end it on such a dour note? It felt like that's kind of how you'd end, like, maybe the second last episode. And then the last episode kind of pick us back up a little bit. Kind of felt like the middle movie of it, like a trilogy where it's like, oh, it ends all sad. It's The Empire Strikes Back. It was just such a dour, sad ending. So that's kind of what I was taken away with, like, after just watching the whole season. But that being said, I did really enjoy it. Let's deep dive into episodes 7 and 8 and discuss all the highs and lows, and mostly the fact that there's lots of buffalo riding everywhere. Oh, so many buffalo, just so much CGI buffalo just running everywhere. It was just crazy. So with Perry arrested, they had to put up bail. They had to give them a bunch of money, and they didn't have the money, so they used the farm. They're like, we have the bond for the farm, or like, you know, the lease or whatever for the farm. And so if he, you know, escapes bail and runs away, the farm is gone. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, oh, I don't even feel clever saying this, but he's going to fall into the hole and they'll lose the farm. Like, this feels almost so telegraphed and so obvious. I'm kind of expecting maybe a twist, but no. He falls in the hole. He wasn't pushed in the hole. He looks at the hole and goes, my Rebecca must be in that hole, or maybe something. And he just dives like head on, like he's diving into a swimming pool. And he's just like, yeah, I'm in the void, baby. And it's just crazy. But it kind of feels a bit like, yeah, I know he's going to fall in the hole, because of course he's falling into the void hole time travel thingy, because that, yeah, they're going to lose the farm. And it was really sad and depressing. It's like, he knows what they did to like get him out on bail. Like, how dare he just jump into the void? They're going to lose the farm now. It was just really heartbreaking. There was just a lot of really sad stuff in this episode where I'm like, I guess I shouldn't feel so sad. He murdered a man. Like, I guess this is comeuppance for all that. And they all kind of, you know, buried the evidence. And, you know, they tried to get him to get away with it and all that stuff. But I don't know, I'm still on their side. Like, I like Josh Brolin, so I'm on Josh Brolin's side, even if he's a monster or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know, found that really depressing and sad, but a little bit kind of obvious. Not much in these two episodes really surprised me. The only thing that kind of, I wasn't even really surprised. It was like, okay, cool, we've checked that off. Because it was either crazy parallel dimension universes, whatever the hell, or time travel. And the time travel thing had made more sense. It was just that one time we saw Autumn and she had the same necklace, but I guess it's just another necklace. So this episode, we find out Josh Brolin's backstory, his origin story. And he's going hunting with his dad, and he accidentally kills his dad, goes running away, and then dives into the hole And well, the whole seems to be born from his need to escape. It seemed to like emerge. So I do wonder if the whole kind of comes to being because of people's wants and desires or needs. It's almost like the room of requirement from Harry Potter. Like, does it appear when people want it, and then does it disappear when people have used it and it's done? Because when Perry dives in, and this was actually the biggest surprise for me for the whole 2 episodes, it just like disappeared, and he's like just gone forever potentially. We do get another slightly smaller hole at a different point, but at that point I was like, oh my god, is he like lost in time now? That's crazy. What I loved about this Roy flashback origin story is there's a bit where they're hunting, and I'm like, their costumes, their clothes, they don't look super modern to me. But then that moment where you see his mum and his sister, and they're proper in like old school clothing, and I'm like, oh my god, he's from like ages ago. I think they said 1886, which is crazy. Like, imagine being in 1886 as a kid, murdering your dad, running into a hole, and suddenly you're in the 60s. Like, he's like, I don't know, he lived in a time when he would have lived up, grown up, and died before, like, television was invented. But now, he gets to live in a world where in 10 years, Star Wars comes out. Like, presuming this is set in the modern day, he's alive as an adult to be able to watch Breaking Bad. Like, what a trade up. And probably the food was better or something. You know, stuff, who cares about all that stuff? McDonald's might have been in the 1880s. But no, definitely not. What am I saying? I just thought this was such a crazy moment of just like, holy shit. Like, yeah, that's a tragic, horrific backstory. But like, imagine if you'd gone from 1886 to like 1720, like you're going back in time. Like, that would suck. You're like, oh my god, the food's even worse. I'm like still a peasant slaving away. There's no TV, there's no Netflix. Like, what do I even do? Like, I've got no KO to watch the football. Does football even exist yet? Oh my god, football wouldn't even exist yet. Oh my lord, it's just such a trade up. That's all I could think about. I'm like, I don't know. I hope he appreciates how good a time skip that is. Because Jesus, living in the 1880s, just seems like it'd just be the worst. We also get the confirmation he's crawling out of the hole, and he was that boy covered in the dust slime stuff, and he goes, whoa, and he scares Will Patton. Oh, he doesn't do that. He just kind of emerges, and Will Patton's like, oh Jesus, I'm a kid and I'm scared. And he runs off. So we get that confirmation that was him in that moment we saw from Will Patton's point of view. So that was really fun. I feel like that made sense to me. But just having all these reveals kind of happen was really exciting. I really enjoyed this flashback. It kind of shifts your perspective. That first episode where he sees the hole and he's trying to dig and he's screaming and he's like, damn this hole, and he doesn't want to tell anyone about it because it's like flashing back to his childhood when he crawled out of this hole into this timeline. I don't know. It's really interesting as well. Like, when he gets pushed in, did he think he'd go back to 1880? It would be just such a relief to go into the future and not be back in 1880. He'd be like, oh my god, I can't even finish the final season of Better Call Saul. This is awful. So I don't know. It's just kind of really fun to kind of reanalyze and recontextualize how he's kind of been throughout the series with this big void hole and how he's kind of seen it and thought about it. And I guess he's always known as time travel from the very get-go, and he's just been in proper denial because he's like a proper cowboy man where he's like, I'm just a cowboy. I just farm the land and cows and cattle and, you know, farm stuff. I don't know much about farm stuff. I don't know. He's got a whip or whatever. A lasso whip. Are they different? They're different, right? So just like last week, where Will Patton was barely in it and he's pretty much in a coma, once again, he's just in a coma for the whole time. We don't even get a flashback scene where he does a little dialogue scene and a little bit of a monologue and stuff. So we get almost nothing. He's just lying there in a coma, and I understand it for the story and the plot and all these things, but I just feel like I just want to see Will Patton act and be crazy and be this insane, interesting, crazy man that we saw in those first 4 episodes. And at the end of that 4th episode, where he was so excited to see the hole, he was so crazy, I was so excited for that. And the fact that after that we really didn't get anything from him, I am really disappointed by. I understand he'll be in it for, like, you know, future seasons, so we'll get all the Will Patton we need, but I'm greedy and, you know, I want it all now. I just want my Will Patton crazy acting now. I am super glad that he wasn't killed by his brother that's not Singing Billy, whatever that other guy's name is. When he started to kill him, I got so angry. I'm like, how dare you comatose him and then you kill him like this? Like, I don't know, I was so disappointed. Then Singing Billy comes in, he saves him, and I was like, yes, Singing Billy's now one of my favorite characters. At first he was just that guy who's just singing all the time. I'm like, I feel like he's singing at appropriate and then non-appropriate times. He's just like this side character. In the last few episodes, he's suddenly just like a main character, and it's really, really awesome. I really like his whole character arc. I am a little afraid in that last episode he got shot and maybe killed, although we don't see like that he died, but it looked like he got shot through the neck or something. So yeah, I don't know. I really hope he's not dead, but it really properly looked like he was proper dead in that car. So, I don't know, that'd be really, really sad if they did kill him and he's done. Because I found him really interesting. Like, he's eating the dust. Like, you know, Roy, like, puts it on his hand and it sinks in and stuff. This guy's just eating it. Like, it's candy. Like, I was like, dude, that's crazy. Like, you could overdose on time travel, dude. Like, this is scary stuff. Like, he was going so crazy with that. Even just feeding Will Patton when he's in a coma. I'm like, I don't think you should be feeding him the time travel dust. Like, I don't know, that really upset me. The idea of like feeding him that kind of time travel dust juice magic, whatever the hell's going on, and just being like, get some of this. You're gonna have some sick dreams, Dad. Just really unpleasant. I also, Singing Billy, I don't know, like this show is like really self-serious for like 90% of the time, like really self-serious. But these last 2 episodes had some absurd comedy where I was like, I don't know what they're going for, but it's very funny, but it feels very weird and doesn't really fit the show. Him and Autumn, or Amy in the future Amy, they kiss a lot in these episodes, like, but not just like, oh, it's a romantic kiss and it's all, you know, sun in the background, their hair's flowing, it's all beautiful. It's just like that, but like a parody of that. And it's just like all tongues all day, just like really over the top, really weird. It happens a few times and we get like a lot of close-ups and like panning shots around, and there's so much energy and movement towards the camera in those moments, and it just, I don't know, it felt really out of place. Like, I found it very, very funny, but I was also like, what is happening? I don't understand this creative decision. Like, who was directing this scene? They're like, let's spin the camera around and around. Get your tongues out. More tongue. I said more tongue. So after their big kissy tongue sequence, they have like, you know, they're like, okay, let's step up the floor play a little bit. And they start like, you know, taking his shirt off. But then, instead of doing anything sexual, she just grabs a knife and starts carving the Abbots sigil into his chest. And he's all like, oh yeah, I love it. And she's like, oh, I love it. Deeply unpleasant. Like, I really didn't enjoy that. I'm like, this is probably the single worst foreplay I've seen in a very long time. Like, not for me at all. Absolutely not. Just like, really didn't like how much he was enjoying getting carved up. Really didn't like how much she's enjoying carving him up. I don't know. Just, what's with the Abbott sigil? Like, I know that, you know, you've time traveled and stuff, so your brain might be a bit like, ooh. But yeah, just deeply unpleasant. Autumn in these last 2 episodes, and in the episodes before, but like, in these 2, she's really ramped up her manic, crazy kind of hyper just intensity. Like, she is like ferocious and scary, and it's just like, oh, like that scene where she's a close up of her face, she's hyping herself up, and at that point I'm like, oh my god, she's gonna throw herself into the hole. Like, she's gonna grab little Amy and be like, you're me, I'm you, and chuck her into the hole. It's gonna be like this closed loop of spinning around, of being like, I remember a crazy lady throwing me into a hole when I was 9, I've got to be that crazy lady, you know, that classic time travel loop. It's all been me, I'm destiny all along, like all that. But instead, she hypes herself up with this crazy, crazy speech. Can't remember what it was, but it was crazy and it really freaked me out. And her performance just incredible. But then she goes and she tells Perry, there's a hole. Go confront your dad about the hole. He does, but then Perry's like, I think Rebecca's in the hole. Jumps in the hole. I also love those shots where people are just like, whoa, and they're falling through the hole, and it's just all the black CGI misty stuff everywhere. Just very funny. Like, I think it's meant to be kind of like spooky and scary, but part of me, I'm like, oh, I really love the effect of this, and part of me is like, it just kind of looks like they're like, you know, I don't know, I feel like depending on my mood when I've seen each like moment of them doing that shot, because they've done it for Josh Brolin, like I thought that was really like effective, and I'm like, oh, it's so kind of trippy and bizarre, and this one I was kind of like, it's a bit silly and funny, I don't know. So Perry thinks Rebecca fell into the hole and has time traveled somewhere. Oh, he doesn't think that, but I think he's like, I better go into the hole and investigate, find my Rebecca. But even if Rebecca did or didn't fall into the hole, she's back now, and she's like, hey, Amy, let's go. I'm your mum, let's get out of here. Should we leave a note for your grandmother? No, screw her. Maybe she hates the grandmother, maybe she didn't like her in 6 Feet Under. I don't know, but it seemed very dogsy. She's just like, let's not leave a note, let's not explain anything. I'll just essentially kidnap you from the grandmother's perspective. You're just gonna be disappeared and gone. Terrifying, horrifying for the grandmother, but, you know, for the mum, I guess she's like, come with me, it's all gonna be good. And she's had to escape and hide from someone. We don't get any more of that, but that's a nice little tease for season 2. She's back. Why was she gone? Was she in the hole? Has she time traveled? All these things, really, really like all of that stuff. Also, another bizarre moment was when they're doing all their kissing and stuff, and then Singing Billy, like, joins in with the song that's playing, like, in the soundtrack that, like, they could definitely not be, like, hearing in the show. It was like the diegetic sound became non-diegetic. Or vice versa. I can't remember which one means which, but who cares? You know what I mean. The soundtrack's playing, and then he just starts singing the soundtrack. utterly bizarre, feels like it's from a slapstick Adam Sandler comedy kind of thing, where it's like, it's all wacky and crazy. I don't know. There was a lot of Singing Billy this episode where I'm like, what is the tone they are going with? Like, there is so much, like, intense, like, mood and theme and feeling. You know, like, you go from, like, the buck guy, the guy who's riding the bulls, and his whole story and arc in these episodes. Then you go to Singing Billy, singing the song that's playing on the soundtrack while doing like kissing with big lighting and spinning shots. It just feels like the tone was like really mismatched at places. I don't know. Was that just me? So Singing Billy's brother, whose name I cannot remember, finds out about the hole, but then the hole's disappeared, and there's a sequence where he's like, I've got to find the hole, and he's like digging for the hole, and we get all this, you know, big wide shot, he's made all these holes everywhere, which really reminded me of the movie Holes, Shia LaBeouf's The Holes. There's lots of holes everywhere, and eventually he's digging, and suddenly it seems like there's this black ooze, and I'm like, oh, is that oil? Oh no, it seems to be the time travel juice, dust, whatever the hell's going on, and it starts bubbling up, and he's like, in a pretty small area. Like, the old hole was like real big. This is like a little baby hole in comparison. And then out explodes the bagillion million buffalo, like it's the scene from bloody Lion King. There is just 1,000 of them just charging and charging and charging. It's crazy. But I was suddenly like, wait, but like the sheriff had time traveled back into the old days, maybe to meet her ancestors in season 2, which I think would be a really interesting plot. But she sees all the buffalo, and there's a wide shot, and it's so many buffalo. Just so many of them. And we're then to think they all came out of this little hole that Singing Billy's brother, like, made. Like, is he definitely dead? Like, if he's not dead, that's ridiculous. Like, those buffalo came out of this hole, riding up, like, out of the hole, and so many of them, like, thousands and thousands and thousands of them, just seemed absurd they came out of such a small hole. Like, one at a time, that would have taken, like, a day. Like, I don't know. I don't know. That just kind of baffled me. I'm like, why not just have him build a bigger hole? Or maybe show the hole getting bigger and exploding out and him running away and getting out of the way. Unless, of course, he's been killed in the stampede. But if him and Billy are both dead, that feels like too many characters are dead. So hopefully Billy's not dead. I wouldn't really mind if Singing Billy's brother is dead. He was a bit nothing to me. He's like, ooh, I'm angry. Ooh, we can get the money. Ooh, I don't like my dad. And it's like, he's kind of semi-interesting. But I feel like Singing Billy, the way he's kind of gone like a bit kind of like, ooh, like time travel. Bloody Autumn is going to lead the new world, and she's going to create a new land and be queen of the land. And I don't know, he's gone a bit like, ooh, spooky and weird. And I really find that more fascinating and interesting. After a whole season of not many people knowing about the cosmic hole, the void, the time travel void, and it's been kind of a bit mysterious, and it's mostly been like a crime story about two cowboy families, we finally kind of end the season with almost everyone knowing about the hole, except for riding the bulls guy. He doesn't know, but a billion million buffalo explode everywhere, which is kind of like this big event that I think is going to lead to maybe the whole town kind of being like, what's going on? Where did they come from? And all this stuff. And I really like the idea that it's going to kind of expand and explode to get to that point where we saw at the end of episode 2, where everyone's surrounding the hole and there's a countdown and there's some crazy stuff happening and everyone's aware of the cosmic void time travel hole. So I'm really excited for where it kind of is setting up to go. But the fact the episode ends where she's like, the family's gone, he's like, it hasn't all gone because of the Amy Autumn moment. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's kind of nice, bittersweet. Because there's so much depressing, everyone's like gone, it's all sad. I kind of do feel like it needed like a sting to show us something in the future to kind of reignite and re-excite us. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. I would be really interested to know what people think. Were they kind of satisfied with this end season? Like, obviously there'll be a season 2. I mean, God, I would be so angry if this got cancelled. It is not complete whatsoever. This would be deeply unsatisfying. Hopefully people are watching it and it's done pretty alright, so it'll get a second season. Also, the final reveal of the Amy is Autumn, Autumn is Amy from the future. I feel like when we saw the scar, just because I kind of presumed at this point that that was definitely the case, like I would have been way more surprised if that hadn't been the case. But the way it then flashed back to a bunch of different scenes and then to her, I don't know, that didn't make me go like, oh my god, the revelation, the reveal, oh my mind's being blown. Or it wasn't like a epic, exciting moment. I didn't have goosebumps on my goosebumps. I just kind of watched it and went, yeah, we know, of course. Like, I don't know, I feel like the way they presented that could have been done differently or more interestingly, rather than him just seeing a scar and then we just got flashes of the characters throughout the season and just shots of them. I don't know. I feel like maybe, I don't know how you do it. Nothing comes to mind straight away, but I feel like these kind of moments I've seen in other shows and I feel like I'm always like swept up in the moment, whereas this felt like a little bit lackluster. I don't know. I'd be really curious if I'm totally off with that and everyone else really loved that moment, loved the confirmation and or reveal. If you didn't think that was going to be a thing at all and that completely blew you away, I guess it would be different if you hadn't kind of suspected it. A few people in my comments had kind of said that was the theory right from the start, and from then, every time I saw them just doing anything, I'm like, it's gonna be that. If it's not that, they've wasted an opportunity. It should definitely be that. There was enough breadcrumbs to kind of figure it out before it happened. So yeah, just a little bit lackluster in the reveal, but I'm happy that it was true, and I'm super excited for season, 2, because Roy and her had a big epic western showdown and like bang, 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 shooting and trying to kill each other, and now, like, they had like a car chase, and he shoots Singing Billy, and all this crazy stuff, and then he realizes, oh my god, that's my daughter, so I love her now, oh my god, I'm so glad I didn't kill her. So I'm really interested to see where their kind of story goes from here. Overall, I love the first season of Outer Range, and I'm super keen to see season 2. They didn't do it this season, but show us a mammoth. I want to see a mammoth. That's almost all I want to see. They should just cut, the start of season 2 should just start, and Perry is like, he's got like a big beard, so he's clearly been somewhere for a while, and there's snow everywhere. I'm like, what the hell? What time period is this? And then suddenly it pans out, and he's not riding a horse, he's riding a mammoth, and he's back in mammoth times. He's just riding a giant mammoth, doing what he can to survive in whatever year mammoths were existing in. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but I would love to see a mammoth next season, and I would love to see more of the future stuff, and I would love for it to kind of focus a bit more on the sci-fi time travel-y stuff, because I find that slightly more interesting, even though I do enjoy all the cowboy stuff, and everyone's got a cowboy hat, and they're like, look at my cowboy hat, as I put it on, they do that thing. Like, at one point in this episode, one guy is like sitting down without the cowboy hat on. He gets up, walks like 6 feet, and he puts the cowboy hat on to walk from one chair to the other, like 6 feet, sits back down, takes the cowboy hat off again. Love it! Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what everyone thought of these last 2 episodes of Outer Range and the whole season in general.